She was a nursing student. She read philosophy. She quoted Simone de Beauvoir. She believed genuinely, intellectually believed that the human body deserved to be understood, not hidden. Her name was Marie Louise Hartman, and in 1984, she walked onto a film set for the very first time, not because she had to, but because she decided to. What happened next made her one of the most recognized, most studied, and most debated icons of an entire era. But the story, most people know, it barely scratches the surface. Most people have heard the name Nina Hartley. Far fewer know about the nursing degree, the feminist philosophy, the educational series that quietly changed how an entire generation thought about intimacy and personal health. And almost nobody talks about the moment the industry tried to silence her and what she chose to do instead. Stay with us, because this story is nothing like what you've been told. March 26, 1959, Berkeley, California. A city already trembling with ideas, civil rights marches, free speech movements, an entire generation refusing to accept the world as it had been handed to them. Into this atmosphere came Marie Louise Hartman, raised in a Jewish intellectual household. Her father, a rabbi, her home filled with books, debate, and the radical notion that knowledge was never something to be afraid of. She absorbed every single bit of it. By her early 20s, she was studying nursing, drawn to the science of the human body, to the psychology of care, to the complex and often overlooked relationship between well-being and self-understanding. She was serious, methodical, brilliant by most accounts. But there was something else burning beneath all that discipline, a question that no textbook she had ever read was willing to answer honestly. What would happen if the world finally stopped being ashamed of itself? The early 80s changed everything. The home video revolution had arrived, and with it, a cultural shift that Hollywood, politicians, and social critics were entirely unprepared for. For the first time in history, independent film had a direct line into living rooms across America. The gatekeepers were gone. And for the world of retro independent cinema, a world that had long operated on the fringes of mainstream culture, this was a moment of staggering, irreversible transformation. Marie Hartman was watching closely. In 1984, at the age of 25, she made her decision. She stepped in front of a camera deliberately, philosophically, entirely on her own terms. She had studied the industry before she entered it. She had thought carefully about what she was choosing and, perhaps more importantly, why. She carried her nursing background with her like a compass, and she had chosen a new name. Nina Hartley had arrived. The rise was immediate, striking, and by any honest measure, impossible to ignore. Within 12 months of her debut, Nina Hartley was one of the most sought-after talents in independent cinema, not because of spectacle, because of presence. She was different on screen, warm where others were cold, thoughtful where others were mechanical. She brought an intellectual energy to her work that the industry had genuinely never quite seen before, and audiences responded to it with an intensity that surprised even the most experienced producers and directors of the era. By 1986, she had appeared in over 80 productions. By 1987, her name had become synonymous with the golden age of independent film itself. But the achievement she was most proud of had nothing to do with fame. Nothing to do with the awards, the covers, or the marquee recognition that was accumulating around her. It had to do with a camera, a script, and a question that nobody else in her position had been willing to ask out loud. It was time to educate. In the late 80s, Nina Hartley did something that no one in her position had ever done before. She launched a comprehensive educational video series direct, compassionate, and clinically informed by her nursing background. Not designed to entertain, designed to teach. To reframe conversations about the human body as conversations about health, communication, and self-knowledge. In an era that still largely treated these subjects as something to whisper about, it was nothing short of a radical act. She wasn't just performing for an audience, she was educating one. Decades on, Nina Hartley's influence reaches far beyond anything that could have been predicted from those neon-lit streets. She has been inducted into multiple industry halls of fame. Her educational work has been cited in gender studies programs, sexual health curricula, and cultural criticism from Berkeley to London. She is still working, still speaking, still, by every account, entirely uncompromising. In the pantheon of golden age independent cinema alongside luminaries like Secca, Vanessa Del Rio, and Hypatia Lee, she holds a singular, irreplaceable position, not simply because of what she did during those extraordinary years, but because of the thoughtfulness, the courage, and the absolute clarity of purpose with which she did it. Not just a performer, a thinker who happened to perform. History has a habit of remembering the spectacle and forgetting the substance. Marie Louise Hartman, the rabbi's daughter from Berkeley, who became Nina Hartley, was always far more than a name on a marquee. She was a woman who looked at a world full of shame and silence and chose to answer it with honesty, intelligence, and an absolute refusal to be made small. And that, more than anything else, is why we're still talking about her. What's your take on Nina Hartley's legacy in the golden age of cinema? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and make sure you subscribe for another untold story from the golden shadows of retro cinema history.